going on, Los Angeles? Welcome into, I guess, a breaking edition of the LA Football Show. I'm your host, Ryan Dyrud, here on the LA Football Network. We'll have plenty more on this news that I'm sure many of you have now heard. We're doing a Bruin Bible tonight. Salute to Troy will have something. Jamal and I will have a full recap on the LA Football Show coming out tomorrow. But I at least want to jump on and give my immediate reaction because this is groundbreaking news. I mean, this will change the landscape of college sports forever. And so for those of you that have not heard, it is being reported and has been confirmed by many sources around the country that USC and UCLA will be leaving the Pac-12 as early as 2024 and joining the Big Ten, if it's still considered the Big Ten or the Big Conference, whatever they call it now. Huge news. You know, last year when Oklahoma and Texas made the split from the Big 12 to move to the SEC, which will be happening, there was obvious ramifications from that move. There was going to be a huge domino effect at some point. We knew this was going to happen at some point. But after that happened, I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe the Pac-12, the Big 12, and the ACC kind of came together and said, hey, we need to do whatever we can for the sanctity of the NCAA and keeping the conferences competitive and this and this and that. Well, USC and UCLA looks like they have blown that up now and jumping for the Big Ten. Now, you know, Pete Thamel from ESPN has come out and said this is pretty much a done deal. Press conference could be coming as early as tonight or tomorrow in the next 24 hours. Hopefully I will be there at that. That is the plan. Other sources, Ryan Carte of the LA Times has confirmed that USC was the leader in this, in making this happen, and brought UCLA with them. And, oh man, I mean, just so many thoughts. I don't really know what to think about this move. And I'm going to keep it primarily involving football. And, you know, basketball kind of lines up with that too. But, you know, it's hard to think about the ramifications for all the other sports because it's been reported that every sport will move over outside of beach volleyball. So, you know, baseball moving over, gymnastics moving over, volleyball moving over, regular volleyball, not beach volleyball. Water polo, I guess. I didn't know Big Ten really had water polo. I haven't followed it that extensively, but I know the Pac-12 is like kind of a powerhouse, or just the West Coast is a powerhouse in that sport. So huge deal for those sports and a lot of travel time. That's kind of the big opening thought by a lot of people is, you know, you now have two LA teams. When they play Rutgers, that's a cross-country travel. So, you know, it's interesting. I think the time zones, when you look at it like that, and I'm going to talk a lot about that. I want to talk more on kind of what it means for football. But just, you know, to quickly give my reaction, the time zones will have an effect when you go from West Coast to East Coast. It's definitely in play, and especially as a student, right? The travel time, I don't think is a huge factor because from LA to Seattle, I mean, that's a over 3 hour flight, 3.5 hour flight. And you fly to New Jersey, that's a 5 hour flight. So it's really not a huge 1.5 to 2 hours longer of travel. It's not a huge thing. But when you go from, you know, 11 o'clock to 2 o'clock or whatnot, it does definitely have an effect. But, you know, that's something we can all talk about and chatter. But this is obviously a money move. You know, you see what the Big Ten is bringing in, you know, revenue with their TV deals, with just the coverage the Big Ten gets over the Pac-12. I mean, talking basketball specifically, UCLA obviously is still more a basketball school than football school. You could argue that the Big Ten right now is a better basketball conference than the Pac-12. I mean, who out there would rather watch UCLA than Washington State than UCLA and Maryland, or UCLA versus obviously Ohio State, Michigan? Those are the big schools. But if you look at more of the smaller, I mean, UCLA versus Oregon State or UCLA versus Michigan State. I mean, it makes kind of a lot of sense in that regard. Football wise, I mean, USC now goes up against juggernauts with you know, Ohio State, Michigan State. You know, Northwestern's had some good years in there. Penn State, I mean, a lot of fun. Obviously, USC and Michigan has been a rivalry for a long time. They kind of ended that when this new realignment happened. Now this can kind of come back. I would assume they'll still keep Notre Dame. What does this mean for Notre Dame? Does Notre Dame now jump into the Big Ten and make it an even 20? Or do they, I know they have basketball in the ACC. It's a mess. Reports out there that there's been conversations now that there's belief in the coming years that there's basically just going to be 2 mega conferences, whether that's the Big Ten and the SEC, just keep compiling teams. So it might go from the Power 5 to the Power 2. I mean, there's so many crazy ramifications this has. So looking at USC and UCLA respectively. For USC, this move makes a lot of sense. Private school, so they don't have any ties to any, they can kind of do what they want. Obviously, there's other complications which are even above my head of right now, needing to do more research. But overall, it's a private school. They have a lot more freedom to make this move. And, you know, for them, about the money, bringing in Lincoln Riley, what that's done, how their basketball program is blossoming and growing under Andy Enfield. And it has had some good years put in here. And, you know, with recruiting, this might put them more nationally, where the Pac-12, as much as I love the Pac-12 and promote the Pac-12 and try to stand on a soapbox for the Pac-12, I mean, it's no secret that it is not one of the power, at least in terms of football, power conferences. I think they kind of cannibalize on each other, but no one's out there arguing the Pac-12 is one of the top Power 5s. They're at the bottom of the Power 5 spectrum. And USC now with this move, with getting Lincoln Riley, you know, you would think that makes them the perennial Pac-12 favorite every single year. And so on the surface, like, well, now they're going to go to the Big Ten, where they got to deal with Ohio State. They got to deal with Michigan, who's really come about. They got to deal with Penn State every year. But in reality, it just makes their bid even bigger for the college football playoff, where they could run roughshod on the Pac-12, and the resume with how things go and this and that may not be strong enough still for them, or they lose one game in the Pac-12, that's out. The Big Ten has proven, Ohio State's proven, you could lose one game and still get in the college football playoff because how the committee looks at it. So that might be a factor that USC is looking at. Again, I think it's more money. You don't make a decision this big based on where do we have the best chance to win. You believe you can beat everybody with what they've done with Lincoln Riley, and you want to have that mantra that doesn't matter. You join the SEC, you're going to be the number 1 team. You have to be that dog mentality. But just from me sitting at a desk here, it's kind of my thought process on it. For UCLA, obviously, this is a lot more complications. They're part of the UC system. They've always kind of been tied in with Cal as kind of a family school, right? I mean, the UC obviously is a big system, a big school system in California, but UCLA and Cal specifically are like big brother, little brother. So that's going to be severed. What are the ramifications with the UC system with UCLA? Are they forced to leave the UC? I mean, there's a lot of UC schools in the Big West and other conferences, so it's not like everyone's in the Pac-12. I mean, it's only UCLA and Cal. You got, you know, Santa Barbara, Irvine, Davis, all in the Big West. So I don't know if they'll have to leave, but what are the ramifications for that, especially when it comes for sport, moving on over to the Big Ten? And, you know, this is just such a huge power move by Martin Jarmond, AD at USC or UCLA. Again, USC, Mike Bone spearheaded this, it sounds like. We'll try to confirm that. But again, being a private school, for them, money-wise, I get it. It makes kind of sense. For UCLA, this is a huge risk opportunity. And whether you hate it or love it, you have to say this is a power move by Martin Jarmond, who is saying we are changing things at UCLA from what they've been. Whether it's for the good, better or worse, we'll see. But he's not going to sit around and be the same old UCLA that they've been the last 20, 30 years. We've seen the branding differences. We've seen all these things that he's already implemented. And now this, if official, again, nothing official yet, sounding like it's trending that way. But now this is just another move that is like, wow, Jarmond is leaving his footprint, leaving his everything print on UCLA's legacy. Whether it's good or bad, we will soon see. We'll have plenty more for you. Full breakdown on Brew and Bible tonight. Salute to Troy probably coming tomorrow. LA Football Show with myself and Jamal coming tomorrow. We'll have plenty more. Keep it right here on the LA Football Network. But crazy move reported. UCLA, USC leaving the Pac-12 as of 2024 for the Big Ten. Let me know your thoughts. Text LAFB to 31032. I'd love to hear you in the conversation, and whether you hate this, love this, indifferent. LAFB to 31032. Let's hear what you have to say. That's all I got for now for the immediate reaction. We'll have plenty more for you. Keep it right here on the LA Football Network.